if you guys haven't seen the photos, they're, like I said, they're on Twitter. You can find them. They're not hidden by any means. So you have the mansion entryway here, and then you've got Leon and Claire. It looks like they're probably in like the basement of the RPD. And so there actually was an interview that the director did, Johannes Roberts. I don't know how to pronounce the name. My personal opinion, like I posted my opinion on Twitter about it when I retweeted this post. My biggest critique is the costume design. But like I'm still really excited to see the film. I'm still super pumped about it. Like I think, and somebody said this, I don't remember who it was, but Jill's outfit looks a lot like Forrest's. So I wonder if maybe instead of going with her like iconic, you know, shoulder pads and beret, I wonder if they wanted something a little bit more tactical, maybe for like the stunts and stuff. Because like her beret, like if they're doing stunts in the mansion, there's no way the beret is going to stay on with her like diving around and rolling and stuff. So I wonder if maybe they opted for a different costume because of that. But I'm honestly not sure. I think Chris looks spot on. Chris's outfit is amazing. I think Robbie Arnell really fills it out. And the outfit is just really nice. Like, look how fucking jacked he is, dude. Who's playing Wesker? I don't remember what his name is, but he's like 6'5". He's a fucking giant. And I honestly think Jill's like actress is on point. It's just a lot of people aren't super happy with the outfit. But like I said, if there's going to be stunts and stuff, I can understand why they chose this. So I'm not 100% sure. I think Wesker's outfit looks pretty solid. Obviously no sunglasses, but again, like this is, keep in mind, this is also a still shot. So take everything that you see here with a grain of salt, because at the end of the day, they probably made certain costume choices because of the way they're going to be portraying it in live action. And on top of that, with it being a still shot, like you just don't know like what the context of this is going to actually be in the scene. Presumably this is like when they first walk into the mansion and they haven't realized that fucking Barry is gone, right? Because this is Richard right here. So presumably we don't know if Wesker like lost his glasses in the fucking chase to get to the mansion. We don't know like if they're going to show up later. Like take everything that you see in these shots with a grain of salt. I honestly think the costume designs here are fine. Like people are mad that this isn't Jill's like shoulder pads and beret, but I think the costume itself is aligned with like a star's outfit, because it does look almost exactly like what Forrest's outfit looks like. So you like, I think it's on brand per se. I just think it looks a little different. Yeah, a lot of people are mad that he doesn't have sunglasses, but it's like, dude, why would you wear sunglasses at night? Like, I'm not trying to quote the song here, but like, why would you actually wear sunglasses at night or inside? Like, it's a little weird, I'm not gonna lie. But like I said, I think it looks good. It's a little like, again, it's different. It's different context, right? Like they have submachine guns. Obviously, they're using MP5s. So obviously, like their equipment and stuff is going to be very different than in the games. So again, take everything with a grain of salt. They're trying to retell the story in a cinematic way, which, let's be honest, the only reason you don't start with a submachine gun in the horror games is because they're horror games. If you just started with a submachine gun, it wouldn't, like, there'd be way too much action, right? They're going to try to make this a horror game, but also like bring a horror movie, but like without any action whatsoever, it's not going to appeal, right? And it's for the same reason that, like, you know, we've talked about it before, like the whole like style of what Resident Evil was back in the 90s was a very certain way because of the time period. This is being adapted to the time period 100%. Okay. So again, keep that in mind. Same thing here. Like I think her outfit is pretty solid. The only, like, this is obviously based on the remake outfit. And I would say really, like, you know, everything I'm assuming story-wise, considering that Lisa Trevor is in this, is going to be based off of the remakes and not the originals. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. The one you're mostly unhappy with is Leon. Costume looks very jank in the still. And why doesn't Claire have a ponytail? I agree with the ponytail thing. Honestly, I think Leon's costume is okay, but there's a lot of film grain here. And also, this is very possibly without post-processing. So it's possible that with like different like post-processed lighting effects and stuff that they're going to do like after the fact that they're working on now, it's possible this is just a raw shot. And if that's the case, you're not getting the exact, like, again, everything I would personally take with a grain of salt. His outfit looks brand new. That's kind of what I first noticed. Like, it does kind of look in some ways like a cheap cosplay. It looks like the outfit's brand new, which would make sense considering that's his first day on the job. He probably hasn't even had a chance to wash it yet. So it's gonna look like it was just like brand new, like off the freaking, you know, like sewing machine, like brand new. Like it's gonna look that way because it's his first day on the job. It's brand fucking new. Obviously he's got blood on it already, but you know, is what it is. So, I mean, I think that honestly the acting will probably be fine. I do think that they probably should have put her hair in a ponytail. And again, maybe she puts her hair in a ponytail later. This could be super early in like the RE2 portion of the movie, and maybe she's like, I'm not getting this fucking hair in my face when a zombie's chasing me, and she puts it up in a ponytail. I don't know. I think the casting and the acting is probably going to be fine. I'm more so like, I mean, the biggest thing I'm a little like, okay, well, you know, is the costume design. But I think, again, we could see, just based on the fact that these are still shots, we could see that maybe it goes a little bit more, you know, there's more context and stuff like that once we actually see the film. But there is an interview here that I actually hadn't seen this yet. So obviously the photos here. So there's those photos. There's also a Lisa Trevor photo, which I can't zoom in on this, but like it looks okay. She looks pretty freaky looking, I'm not going to lie. I'm hoping that, again, like, you know, in the context of the film, that they make her super scary and whatnot. Based on the first two Resident Evil games, written and directed by, I don't know if it's Johannes, I have no idea. I'm just going to say Roberts. The film follows Raccoon Powerhouse's transformation from an industrial city to a dying Midwestern hamlet that has become the epicenter of the T-virus outbreak. In an exclusive interview with IGN, Roberts discussed the differences between his Resident Evil film, I think it might be Johannes, I don't know, and the other film starring Milla Jovovich, as well as how his filmmaking approach here borrows not only from Capcom games, but also from old school genre filmmaking. All right, so Robert says this movie really had nothing to do with the previous franchise. This was all about returning to the games and creating a movie that was much more a horror movie than the sort of sci-fi action of the previous films. I was hugely influenced in particular by the remake of the second game, so RE2 Remake is going to be a heavy influence on this. I really wanted to capture the atmosphere-drenched tone that it had. It was so cinematic. The previous movies were very bright and shiny, whereas this movie was dark and grimy, entirely shot at night. It's constantly raining, and the town is shrouded in mist. I was hugely influenced by movies like The Exorcist and Exorcist 3. Don't Look Now and The Shining. You can really feel the texture in this movie. Nothing in this town feels high-tech. It feels dilapidated. I wanted Raccoon City to feel a bit like the town in Deer Hunter, a ghost town forgotten by the rest of the world, and the whole structure of the film was definitely very influenced by Assault on Precinct 13. The difference with this film as opposed to the previous movies is that it is an ensemble where each of the main characters carries huge importance to the narrative. They're not just cosplay characters. I mean, they look like cosplay characters, like amateur cosplayers who have the exact hair and costume. So this is kind of explaining the thing, though, like their costumes. Sort of. They're not just cosplay characters who have the exact hair and costume of the characters. So that kind of explains why her hair's not in a ponytail. It was hugely important with the whole casting process to find people who embodied the spirit and energy of the characters. I think often in-game adaptations, one of the big flaws can just be casting someone to look visually like the characters, giving them the identical haircut and clothes, but not really trying to give the audience the thing that a movie does better than a game, which is to create a three-dimensional character that you can really connect with and believe in. See, that is huge. If I don't care what these outfits look like, as long as these actually feel like Leon and Claire when we watch the movie. That's what I would prefer. Like, here's the thing. The costumes are one thing, and I think the better example is honestly Jill. People can get pissed off all they want about her not having a beret and shoulder pads, but you know what? If this actress plays Jill really well, who gives a fuck about what her costume is? Because, like I said, her outfit is on brand with, like, a Star's outfit. And if we're being honest, she's the only one who has fucking shoulder pads and a beret. Well, I mean, you could argue, like, Rebecca in the original has a beret and shoulder pads. But, like, In the remake, she has a bulletproof vest and like no beret, right? So if the acting is on point, who gives a fuck what Jill's costume looks like? Because honestly, despite the fact that it's not shoulder pads and beret, it is on brand with a Stars outfit. That is what I will say from a critique standpoint. Wesker's looks a little different as well, but it's not just like a completely shitty outfit. Like, I think Chris looks solid. I think Wesker looks good and just a little bit different. Obviously no sunglasses, but again, who gives a fuck? And Jill's outfit isn't the same, but again, if the acting is on point, like Roberts is very much saying that is the case here, if that's the case, I don't care. The only gripe that I have really is, like I said, I mean, his outfit does look a little like amateur cosplay-ish. I think Claire's outfit is perfect, and the hair. But again, Robert says that it's more important to get the acting on point, which I do agree with. Like it says very clearly right here, it was hugely important with the whole casting process to find people who embodied the spirit and energy of the characters. So that to me sounds like if you're casting, you're more concerned with, do they act legitimately like Leon? Because here's the thing that I will say. There are a lot of movies where they do just try to find characters that look like the actors, or that look like the characters in a video game. It's been done a lot of times. They just try to find a lookalike, and the actor can't play that character for shit. It does happen. So with that, I think it is fair to say that if the acting is going to be good, maybe from a costume standpoint, maybe that will, alleviate some of it. And again, like it's worded very clearly right here. I think often in-game adaptations, one of the big flaws can just be casting someone to look visually like the characters. That's 100% true. It happens all the time. Look at the Silent Hill movies, for example. Like, first and foremost, the Silent Hill movies are garbage. Secondly, the characters are just not good. The acting is not good. Like, Sybil's actress is, like, okay, but, like, even still, like, just not good. Giving them the identical haircut and clothes, but not really trying to give the audience the thing that a movie, like, this is perfectly worded right here. One thing a movie does infinitely better than a game, with maybe the exception of Metal Gear, because there's like 14 hours of cutscenes in every game. To create a three-dimensional character that you can really connect with and believe in. Now, you can create a three-dimensional character in a video game, don't get me wrong, but like, movies are about narrative. More than anything else, it's about the story. That's entirely the purpose of a movie, right? That's why you watch a movie, is that you want to see a story in movie format. So there is some merit to this statement, but I'm gonna save judgment for when I actually get to see the movie and determine for myself whether these actors and actresses are gonna do well. I'm confident that they will, but I'm gonna reserve judgment for after the fact, obviously. Recalls how difficult it was to find the appropriate person to represent Leon S. Kennedy. We must have seen so many people, it really was quite a tricky role because of the balance of humor and weariness. Then, is it Avon? I don't know how to pronounce his name. He was in Victorious, though. That was like, my fiance saw him. She's like, oh my God, he was in Victorious. I was like, okay. And I was like, he's the one. He gets it. Is there any update on the live-action TV series? Not that I've seen. They put out some photos recently, but it was like, I think like a month ago, 2 months ago. I wanted to go back to the horror of it all. I wanted scares and atmosphere rather than full-on action. Roberts told IGN when comparing what differentiates Welcome to Raccoon City from the earlier Resident Evil films. I think fans of the game felt the same. They wanted to see the iconic characters and locations and feel that the movie was more in line with the Resident Evil game world. So that's really why we chose to go in that direction, which again, I agree with. I think a lot of people that saw like the original Resident Evil film that was made by fucking Paul Anderson, shitty director, should never direct a film ever again, is just that like, where the fuck are the video game references? Like, yeah, you have the T-Virus, but none of the characters are in it. There's no stars team. There's nothing. Like, All we know is just that like the mansion is not the mansion. And yeah, there's a lab underneath it, but like there's nothing related to the games in the original films at all. So I appreciate that. Again, reserving final judgment for after I watch the film, but Roberts told IGN when comparing what differentiate. Oh, I already read that. They wanted to see iconic characters and locations and feel that the movie was more in line with the game world, so that's why we chose to go in that direction. We worked hand in hand with Capcom on this movie to the point that we actually got blueprints from them on the designs of the Spencer Mansion and the Raccoon City police station in order to recreate them as perfectly as we could. That shows that they're willing to put the work in to make this true. Like, and this is why I'm saying, like, these are still shots. Take them with a grain of salt. The fact that they actually consulted with Capcom and got blueprints for shit means that they really are trying to make this as good as they possibly can. We worked hand in hand with Capcom. That's awesome. We even have the exact artwork up on the mansion walls. Capcom saw it for the first time the other day and was happy and excited. The exact artwork on the walls of the mansion. How crazy is that? There were some like set shots that were leaked a few months back, and even like posters that in the, I think it might even be the original RE2. Some artwork that was on the poster of a fucking building is in the movie. Like the attention to detail from what I'm gathering is actually going to be really on point with the film. Maybe not with the characters, but at least with the environment, which again, if the environment is on point and it's true to the games, and the acting is good, who gives a fuck what the costumes look like? All right, so reserve judgment just based off of what the costumes look like. That's all I would say to you guys. Again, I'm not saying the film's going to be great, but I am hopeful at the very least. Lisa Trevor is actually quite a pivotal role in the movie. I was always fascinated by her when playing the remake of the first game. I found her character both disturbing and at the same time strangely haunting, Roberts told IGN. When we were discussing how to bring this story to life, it was one of the elements that I really wanted to feature strongly, as she has never been in any of the filmed versions of Resident Evil. I wanted her to be a three-dimensional character, not just some creepy specter. We cast Marina Mazepa, who had just done Malignant for James Wan and had worked really hard in bringing this character to life in a way that I think fans are going to love so much. She's terrifying, but also tragic. In the movie, we really connect her to Claire Redfield's story. Starting with the orphanage where Claire grew up. Oh, that's interesting. So it sounds like there's going to be a lot of connection to other characters in the game. That might be another layer that adds something new. That could be interesting. We worked very closely with Capcom. Every character and creature is from the game, and as such, I wanted to be as faithful as possible. I wanted to create a truly immersive feeling for the fans. Capcom was engaged in the conception and design of the film. So it's not just like what Paul Anderson did where they just had the rights and just fucking did whatever they wanted. They actually did consult with Capcom. That's good. I didn't want to just put the game on screen. It had to be its own thing with living, breathing characters and creatures and, of course, zombies. That felt true to the world. Welcome to Raccoon City will be released in theaters November 24th in the US, December 3rd in the UK, and November 25th in Australia. I will 100% be going to see it as soon as possible. How they're going to blend 1 and 2 in one movie. Yeah, I'm curious to see how they're going to tie the orphanage to Claire and Lisa. That actually could be something new that might be actually really cool. For all we know, Capcom could have just given them the license, not bothered to check and agree on every statement. I don't know, Gemini. I mean, obviously take everything with a grain of salt until the movie comes out, but what I don't want to see from fans is exactly like how fucking pissed people are about the costumes. Because yeah, Leon does kind of look like an amateur cosplayer. At the end of the day, like I said, if the acting is on point, who gives a fuck what the costume looks like? It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter if the story, the environment, and the actual acting itself is good. It literally doesn't matter. I'll wait and see what the wider verdict is before seeing it. I'm not on board with some of the actor choices. I think the acting department was pretty carefully picked. I do think I'm more concerned on them not casting people who can kind of look the part, especially after they put all this alleged effort in recreating the mansion almost 1-to-1. Well, again, though, like you can. Let me explain that, Jem, because I think I have a way to explain this that makes 100% complete sense. If you hire the right designer for the environment, getting a set built that's 1-to-1 is easy by comparison to finding somebody that not only looks the part but also is going to play the part perfectly. But what I will tell you is it is a lot easier to find an actor or actress that can play the part perfectly even if they don't look 100% perfect. Here's the thing. I think Wesker and Chris's actors look perfect. I think that they do look the part, and I do think that Jill's actress does sort of look the part. Clara's actress sort of looks the part, but their hairstyles are different. And I don't think a hairstyle makes or breaks a character. Leon's Hispanic in this while he's of Italian descent. Yeah, but when you start going into whether he's Hispanic or what they're doing with the TV show where Wesker's African American, when you go into that, that's when you start getting into really fucking dodgy subjects where you just it's sensitive. Honestly, if you're the right artist, you should be able to play any role. I don't think that just because somebody is Hispanic means that they can't play Leon. I think, honestly, that is, the most discriminatory thing. Just imagine how that comes off if you're an incredible actor and you're turned down for a role because you're Hispanic or because you're African American. How fucked up is that? Yeah, great performance, but because you're African American, we can't give you the part. Sorry. I don't think that that's the right thing to do. And if you have somebody that's going to play the part, I don't think it's discriminatory. It's more about sticking to source material. But I also think that one could argue that imagine that they did pick somebody that looked exactly like Leon. But then when you go to watch the movie, it's completely ruined by the fact that Leon is dog shit and can't play Leon. Because again, you can go watch movies that are based on games and count how many times acting is done well when they pick somebody that looks exactly like the character. Because more often than not, the acting is worse than the visuals. And when you're talking about making a movie, look at Leon in the Paul Anderson films. Looks 100% carbon copy Leon. Dog shit actor. Complete fucking garbage. Complete garbage. Marvel movies are pretty spot on, though. Yeah, but even with the Marvel movies, they don't always pick actors that look exactly the same. The acting is good, but they don't always pick... Look at how many different fucking Peter Parkers have been in Spider-Man. And none of them look like cartoon Spider-Man. None of them do. Not a single one of them. But they all play Spider-Man really well. Go watch 1980 Spider-Man, and they don't look like 1980 Spider-Man. Which, if you want to talk about source material... How much of is the performance based on the director? Well, the director usually works pretty closely with whoever's doing the casting to make sure that they get the right actors and actresses. Spider-Man's tricky since it depends on who produces the film. Okay, so even if we start looking at even if we start looking at Iron Man, Captain America, stuff like that, because those were the next two I would think of. Okay, so you've got Tony Stark. You've got Steve Rogers, right? Okay, two examples of where they did pretty well. But again, Black Widow, Hawkeye, none of those are complete carbon copy source material. And when you start looking at just what is important when you're making a movie, it is more important again. And also keep in mind, I'm going to use Iron Man and Captain America as an example, is that they have secret identities. They put a mask on, and 90% of their face is concealed. 90% of their face is concealed. So, even if they didn't have somebody that looked exactly like it, it would still be better to get a better actor because they're going to be in suit most of the time. You don't have that in this, obviously. So, like, to your credit, like, obviously, you know, looks do matter a little more. But at the end of the day, when you're making a movie, 100% of the time, better actors is a better decision over better visuals. 100% of the time. And like I said, like, it's not like, yes, Leon, they could have maybe, like, made his RPD outfit maybe a little more true to the remake. But, yeah, I mean, like, I think at the end of the day, I just encourage everyone, even the most devout Ari fans, I just would say reserve judgment until you see the movie. Imagine if they cast somebody who doesn't look the part and also performs like shit. If that's the case, then I'm going to be the first person to watch the movie and immediately go live on stream and just say, don't fucking watch it. If that's the case. But I do think that their actors are going to do well. Like, even they talked about the Lisa Trevor actress, who had done an insane job in her previous film. Like, incredible performance in the last film she did. I haven't seen this film, but apparently she did really well. So again, take that for what it is. Let's see if there's any other pertinent info in here. This is like the end of the article. Closer with Capcom is from the game, and as such, I wanted to be as faithful as possible. I wanted to create a truly immersive feeling for the fans, but also that became the trickiest part of adapting a piece of IP like this because I didn't want to just put the game on screen. Yeah, we already read that part. All right, yeah, so that's pretty much it for the article. Did they say how long the film is? I don't know. I would expect that the runtime will probably be an hour 50, maybe pushing 2 hours. Because I don't know how they're going to tie 2 games into one movie without a, like, close to 2 hour runtime. I mean, I think the mansion, you could probably get through the mansion in, like, 30 minutes of screen time, but there's a lot going on in Raccoon City, and I don't know if you'd be able to get all that done in, like, an hour. They're going to speed run the games. I don't know. We'll see. There's a lot of good references in this article. So, like I said, I'm hopeful. But I'm going to reserve, like, true judgment until after the movie. Like, here's the thing. Like I said, the only major critique here is that Leon looks Hispanic, which I'm not going to hold somebody's looks over, like, their acting ability. Ever. I would never, ever do that because, again, we live in a society where, like, source material is more about the character's personality than it is what they look like. Because if you want to talk about source material, then you might as well just cast Julia Voth and have her act as Jill. But the thing is, guess what? You can't really do that because Julia Voth is now, she's in her 40s now, I think. Like, you could maybe give her enough makeup to make her look like she's in her 20s. But again, like, source material, how fake do you want that character to look to make it look real? And that's the thing, like how fake does the character have to look real? Because guess what? You're doing the complete opposite thing to try to achieve the means that you're looking for, and that kind of defeats the purpose of what you're doing in the first place. It's completely counterproductive. So, you know, like I said, I think source material to me is more about the personality and the depth of the character than it is what they look like. If it's scary and it ties in closely from a story and narrative and, like, environmental visuals to the game, and the characters are accurate representations, then I don't really care too much about what they look like. But even if they don't act well, but it's obvious that they, like, tried to make an attempt to align as closely as they could, then, you know. Like, here's the thing. You're not going to get Paul Haddad 100%. You're not going to get Nick Apostolides 100% unless you cast those people, right? And obviously you can't cast Paul Haddad because he's dead. You know, like, you can't get 100% unless you go to the people that originally made those characters. So you got to find people that are going to act it out well, and everybody's acting style is going to be a little bit different. But I think at the end of the day, I'm hopeful. Going to reserve judgment until the movie comes out. Unfortunately, we don't have to wait long. We got about almost 3 months, I guess, technically. Let's see, we're in beginning of September, so we got about just over 2.5 months. Worry about the tie-in. Makes sense to tie 0 and 1, then 2 and 3 with Outbreak files sprinkled in. With how much lore is in RE1 and 2, I think some things will be looked over. It would be easy to tie RE2 and 3 together, sort of. Because of, you know, there's a lot of shared locations, obviously. However, I think with enough runtime, it could be done. I think if the movie has like an hour 50 to 2 hour runtime, I do think that it could be enough screen time to tie everything together. But I also think that they could make this movie. Here's the thing. I think the mansion is going to be more of recap material than it's going to be the actual movie. I think what we're going to see is like this scene here where they walk into the mansion and they go, wow, what a mansion. Obviously, they're probably going to act it differently, but I think they're going to be like, where's Barry? They're going to have about the first like 30 minutes of the movie be about the mansion. Because the reality is, like, they're not going to have a lot of puzzles in the movie. Like, you can't really expect there to be a shitload of puzzles in the movie, because at the end of the day, like, while the games are pretty heavily defined by the puzzles, like, you're not going to spend 15 minutes of screen time having a character figure out a puzzle. Like, you're just not going to do that. I think it's going to be more traps than it is puzzles if they do go that route. It's going to be more traps than puzzles. What if the mansion's a flashback and the movie starts in the city? Possibly. But the thing is, if the mansion's more of like a flashback, then that would probably mean that Jill is going to be featured in the city, which would also be an RE3 tie-in, but they haven't really said that RE3 is going to have a tie-in to the movie. So, I mean, they could do like this movie and then do another movie that covers RE3, and then maybe some original material. I don't know. Or I guess maybe they could do like RE3 and CVX maybe as a tie-in and a sequel. I don't know. There's way too much shit in CVX for, like, it would need its own movie. I think you're right. 30 minutes for Mansion, 10 to 15 minutes transition to the city, then RE2. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. If they have like an hour 50 runtime, they could probably cover both comfortably. What they're probably going to do is they're probably going to completely omit the Residence. Because, like, think about it, right? The Residence is... When I think about Resident Evil 1, the Residence is not an iconic location to me. And the only reason that you go to the Residence in the game is to get a key to the mansion. Guess what? The reality is a STARS team of elite badasses are just going to fucking kick a door in. They're just going to kick doors down. They're not going to spend 50 minutes of screen time looking for keys and... you know, unlocking doors. They're not going to do that in the movie. So this is why I say, like, go into it with an open mind, because it's not going to be an hour and 50 minutes of solving puzzles and backtracking. And there might be backtracking, but it's not going to be an hour and 50 minutes of them solving puzzles and backtracking and going and exploring all of the locations. And doing so to solve puzzles and backtrack. Like, that's not going to be what the movie is. They're going to narrate the story of the characters and tie it to Umbrella and their involvement and research and experiments and all of that stuff. They're not going to do it like the games do, where it's 6 hours of content and they're going to focus more on the, at least if they're going to do this well, it's going to be more about them uncovering the mystery of Umbrella through maybe exploring some different rooms in the layout of the mansion. But it would be better for them to omit the guest house and for them to be finding evidence in the mansion without having to solve puzzles. And maybe there's some traps here and there that they navigate through. But, like, puzzles are going to be incredibly boring and incredibly time consuming for trying to cram 2 games worth of content into one movie. So, like, I would expect there to not really be any puzzles and to replace the puzzles with traps. So, like, they walk into a room and there's, you know, like gas, like poison gas that fills the room or something, and, you know, something like that. Or tripwire that, you know, shoots fucking, like, you know, darts or something. It's going to be something more like that as opposed to puzzles that are incredibly time consuming. That would be my guess. That way, the traps themselves can be more of an action sequence that kind of fills that while there's zombies and stuff lurking around. And then on top of that, as they're going through these traps, they're navigating through the mansion, they're finding evidence, they're piecing together Umbrella's involvement. Eventually, maybe there will be some key items that lead them to the lab where they discover the tyrant and all that stuff, which I'm super excited to see what the tyrant's going to look like. And then obviously they're going to find out that Wesker's a traitor and all that shit. But if they're going to try to add a lot of puzzles and shit, it's just going to be a waste of screen time. They have a lot of shit to cover in whatever the runtime of this movie is going to be, which, like I said, I think it'll be probably about an hour 50. Wonder if they'll add Yawn and Plant 42. Looking forward to the alleged December release. Yeah, it's got November 24th in the US, December 3rd in the UK, November 25th in Australia. Yo, Pyro, what's up? Nikita, how's it going? So yeah, I mean, I think they'll probably do about 30 minutes of screen time for the mansion. They'll show some iconic locations of the mansion. I reckon we'll probably see. It's not going like direct to video Vortex. It will get a video, like a digital release eventually, but it will be in theaters on those days, and it'll probably go digital release probably 2 to 3 months after that. But I think they'll obviously show the main hall. I can guarantee you they're going to show the dining room. They'll probably show some of the rooms where the puzzles are. I just think that they'll probably swap out traps for puzzles so that way they can get through it faster. And then they'll walk around the mansion for a while. They'll kill zombies. They'll avoid traps. They'll eventually find something that leads them to the lab. The lab sequence will probably be like 5 to 10 minutes where they fight the tyrant and then go out and escape. And then it's gonna jump forward. It's gonna go 2 months later, and then it's gonna be Raccoon City. It's gonna be, you know, Leon's first day on the job, and he's gonna end up in Raccoon City, and then they're gonna start tying Chris and Claire together in this whole thing with Lisa Trevor in the orphanage. And then the remainder of the film will primarily be around Resident Evil 2, the G virus, zombie outbreak, going through the RPD, and eventually into the sewers in the lab there. I'm super pumped to see what the tyrant will look like, though. I mean, if it's anything like what these look like, maybe it won't look that good, but where the fuck is Wesker's sunglasses? I don't know. I don't really care where Wesker's sunglasses are. If they're going into this mansion in a movie, it's not going to make any fucking sense that he's wearing sunglasses. Where the fuck is Jill's hat? My guess is that they changed her costume for stunt purposes. I reckon she's probably going to be... I reckon that she will probably be stunt purposes. Yeah, if she's having to like dive on the ground and stuff to like, so if you missed what I was talking about a few minutes ago, I think instead of puzzles in the movie, there's going to be traps because obviously solving puzzles is just going to take up way too much screen time. I think if they do traps instead, that's going to involve stunts, diving out of the way of like fucking arrows or some shit coming out of the walls or something. Running away from the tyrant, zombies, stuff like that. There's probably going to be rolling around, diving through fucking windows and shit. Like, if she has a beret on, that shit's going to fall off, and they're not going to, like, consciously want that in the costume because it's not going to stay on for the stunts. her outfit is very closely resembling Forrest's gear, so it's still on brand with a Star's outfit. But I think the reason they didn't go with her shit is because with the stunts and stuff, there's no way that that outfit's gonna stay together. Oh yeah, Wesker's a fucking giant. Yeah, he's like, I think he's 6'5", but yeah, he's huge. Could at least give her the baseball cap. Yeah, but again, like when you're talking about timelines, like deadlines and stuff, making a movie, even with a baseball cap, if you're jumping through a window, there's still no chance that that shit's gonna stay on. And like it just wastes film time. What if you have an amazing take and the only thing that ruined that take is that your hat fell off? Then you got to make a decision. Do you shoot the rest of the movie without a hat, or, you know, for continuity purposes, or do you completely redo the take and waste time? Like you got to think like it's so easy when you consume digital content. It's so easy to overlook details like that, but when you're directing a film, all of that shit matters. If they would have like spent weeks making this insanely awesome costume for Jill that's 100% true to the games, and then they started filming it and they wasted 2 weeks of filming because the outfit just didn't work. And then they had to spend even more time remaking the outfit and then even more time redoing all of those takes. You're wasting time, you're wasting money, you're not meeting deadlines. Then your fan base is pissed because they have to wait, and then they're even more pissed already because the costumes don't match. So like you have to like, I'd use the take and leave the hat off. It would be more authentic. Oh yeah, I agree with that, Silverwings. If I were a director, I would probably do that too. I would probably say, you know what, it's realistic at the very least. Like, but again, like, you know, you got to think about deadlines. You got to think about time frames and stuff. And, you know, when you're talking Hollywood and the fact that there's like deadlines are very fucking strict in Hollywood. You don't get to just push shit back and not suffer the consequences for that, because the box office for whatever film you're releasing, how much money you make there is completely dependent upon how you market that film and when your release time frame is. And if you don't make that release time frame, you're going to lose a fuckload of money. Quite happy with the outfits. Just hope the Brits do a good job of American accents. I'm not worried about that at all. Dude, like, if you're a professional actor, doing an American accent if you're from another country is not, that's like, that is like acting 101. I don't think I've ever seen an actor or actress just do an absolutely dog shit job. Like, and again, I know a lot of people don't like the original RE films from Paul Anderson, but almost the entire cast in that film is British, and you would never fucking know unless you watched the commentary or you knew the actors and actresses prior. But there's like on the special edition of that film, there's like a playthrough of the movie where the cast is commentating over the movie, and they're all British. Everybody, maybe with the exception of Mila Jovovich. But like almost everybody that's on that fucking special forces team is British. Also, obviously not Michelle Rodriguez, but like all of the other dudes on the cast, they all have accents, and they cover them for the film. It's very common that British people will do an American accent for the purpose of a film. Yeah, Silver. The first two films are okay. And honestly, the only notable, and this is gonna surprise a lot of people, the only notable person that's doing an American accent that I've ever blatantly caught, this is gonna surprise a lot of people, is David Hayter with Snake. In Metal Gear Solid, he actually does a Canadian accent in one of the scenes by accident, and a lot of people don't catch it. But he says sorry as Snake when he's apologizing to Naomi for smuggling his smokes in his stomach. He says, "Sorry to disappoint you, Doctor." But David Hayter is Canadian American, and he dropped the accent by accident, and they didn't catch it, and it made it into the game. He goes, "Sorry to disappoint you, Doctor, but I did manage to smuggle out my smokes." Yeah, Silver Wings. The movies, like, as they, like, made the revelation happen in the last two films was just stupid. To your untrained ear, U.S. and Canadian is extremely similar in some parts. I mean, I mean, Canadian accents are very... a lot of it is in the actual, like... They pronounce some syllables differently, and it's more in like the syllabolic pronunciation than it is like in the actual like intonation and inflectuation and stuff like that some other dialects have. Hope Marvin's in the movie. I think he is. I think there's already somebody cast for him. I think. Maybe not. No, maybe not. I thought that they had already picked somebody. I fucking mispronounced his name. I kept saying Arnell. I think it's Amel, right? I always fucking see it this way and think it's RN. It's a fucking M. I'm stupid. I'm fucking stupid, dude. I mean, he might be in the movie, but this is obviously like a big cast. Like if looking at this cast here, I would assume that Sickly Mom is probably I forget what her name is, but Lisa Trevor's mom. I would assume that that's probably who Sickly Mom is. He's such a small person. No, he's not. I mean, he's maybe not like fucking boulder punching huge, but he's in great shape and he's almost 6 feet tall. You've met him IRL. He's a small guy. I mean, he got into shape for this film, dude. He's 5'11", and he's fucking jacked as Chris. I don't know if, like, he was scrawnier when you met him, but, like, this picture here, he's in great shape. And at 5'11", that's pretty filled out for 5'11". Like, you can tell he's got muscle mass, and, like, look at these fucking biceps, dude. He's got some fucking tone. Met him right around the time he did that Netflix movie. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's gonna say you've got to be like over 6 feet tall if you think 5'11". Probably 195 pounds, I would say. Like just based on his build, I'd say he's probably like between 180, 195, somewhere in that range. You're 6'1", 230. Well, yeah, I mean that's way smaller than you, but like 5'11" and this build, that's in great shape. That is filled out for 5'11". My best shape of my life, I'm 5'9". Best shape of my life, I was 175. So 2 inches taller than me, and probably like I'd say he's probably about I'd say he's probably somewhere between 185 and 195. Maybe even more than that. He's in great fucking shape. Just saying, I'd imagine Chris to be like 6'3". No, Chris is nowhere close to that. I think in his bio, Chris's bio, he's 5'11". Let me see. He is 5'11". Well, I guess he's 6'1" in some portrayals of him, but in RE5, apparently he's 6'1". But in the Capcom original archive, he's 5'11". So he's exactly the same height as Chris. And his weight is, again, RE5. He's probably fucking 300 pounds solid, but he's 177. So he's actually, in the original games, he's fucking scrawny as shit. 5'11", 177. That's skin and bones for 5'11". Non-censored version of the RE1 intro. Gotcha. Yeah, but I reckon he's more than 177 in this. I bet you he's probably 185, 190, 195, somewhere in that range. That's great shape for 5'11". And filled out, like I said, I was filled out. I wasn't this buff, but I was pretty well filled out in the best shape of my life. And I was in the, like, I fluctuated between 170 and 180 in the best shape of my life. Now I'm like 190 and fat, but like, best shape of my life. That's about where I was, 2 inches shorter. And you'd be surprised how quickly weight adds up as you start adding inches. Yeah, I think Robbie Amell's a great cast for Chris, personally. Like, everybody's going to have their own opinion, but I will defend this one because I think Chris is arguably the best choice they made for this movie. Round is a shape, right? All right, let's see here. Apparently they even cast fucking Kevin, the helicopter pilot. I don't know who Orderly is. I don't know who Luis is. The turnaround zombie. So this is going to be the face we see when the first zombie shows up in the movie. This is going to be the face we see. I'm sure they'll put a bald cap on him. Oh, maybe that's not Lisa Trevor's mom, because this says sickly boy. He's got a good zombie face. Gosh, it's getting hot down here. I don't know. I don't see Barry. They don't have anybody casted. Keep in mind that, like, even for 2 movies, like, the cast is huge. It's gonna be series or just a movie? This is just a movie. Like, this is a big cast. Yeah, Annette does look good. Nathan Dales. Still gonna be skeptical about this movie. You know what I find funny? There's a lot of Canadian actors and actresses in this movie. And it's funny because most of the cast in the first 2 games are Canadian. So that's kind of funny how it works out. The outfits look bad. Well, Kai, you've missed my first hour and 20 minutes of talking about this, but if the acting is good, I don't give a fuck what the costumes look like. And honestly, like, the only outfit that I think would have needed some work would have really been Leon's. Like, I think Chris's looks good. I think, like, Wesker's looks good. It's just different. Like, and different isn't necessarily bad. Because keep in mind, like, again, what I've already said is that there's probably going to be stunts, and if you put Jill in shoulder pads and a hat, that shit is not going to stay together doing stunts. It's not. It's just not. And, like, because of the fact that they're probably going to replace puzzle solving with actual, like, traps in this, that's going to mean that there's a lot higher potential for stunts. And a beret is not going to stay on when she's fucking diving out of the way of whatever is going to be flying at her in that whatever trap she walks into. It's just not going to happen. Could have kept a similar color scheme. That's navy blue. I don't know if you see that, but that's navy blue, which is the color of her colors. That's Jill's colors. That's Richard's colors. They do have the same color scheme. It doesn't look navy blue because obviously this is like very dimly lit, but this is very much a like forest style outfit. And that's a navy blue vest that she's wearing or whatever that it looks like. Maybe they're like cutoffs. It's either a cutoff vest. Obviously her arm is in the way and she has a weapon drawn. So I'm not sure whether it's a vest kind of like what they have here or if this is actually just like a shirt, but that's navy blue. That's definitely Richard's colors there. Wesker's wearing black, so he's got his color scheme. That looks almost exactly like Chris Redfield there. The fact alone they seem to be cutting out Barry's conversation pieces eliminates almost 20 minutes of the game itself. Well, this very much leads me to believe that they're going to walk in and they're going to ask where Barry is, which means that this is probably based off of Chris's scenario. It's not Jill, it's gender swapped Forrest. They're probably going to ask where Barry is when they walk in. This is probably the scene where they're like, is everyone all right? Like, where's Barry? What the fuck? And so they don't have somebody casted for Barry as far as I know, but maybe he's only going to play a small role in the game. Like maybe instead of it being, you know, Jill or Chris that's imprisoned, maybe Barry gets separated and Wesker, you know, finds him and kidnaps him or something. I don't know. They'll probably find a way to tie it together. I don't know. If they're, maybe Barry just has such a small role that he's just not even on the cast. Who's the guy that got bitten by the snake? That's this guy right here. That's Richard. That's not Barry, guys. This is Richard. And also, Barry isn't fat. He's just like, he's got a dad bod maybe, but the vest that Barry wears in the remake makes him look bigger than he actually is. He's not fat. But that's not Barry. This is Richard. Barry will be found in the dining room eating sandwiches. Does IMDb sometimes intentionally leave out cast members? It can. I would say, though, like, the cast for this movie is fucking huge. So it's possible that he just has such a small role. Look at this fucking cast, dude. Most movies don't have this many people in the... Look at this shit, dude. This is a huge cast. Like, there's like 30 people on this in this row. So my guess is that he probably just has a small role in the movie, and so he's probably not like... Hope Richard gives us an ouch. Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, this is not Barry. This is Richard. So they're obviously going to be doing some shifting as far as the intro for the movie goes. It's going to be a little different than the games. Who's going to recite this Jill sandwich line? I doubt that that line is even going to be in the movie. But there's going to be people that are like, they didn't say Jill sandwich in the movie, so this movie sucks. There's going to be people that do that, I promise you. 100% chance there's going to be people that because one thing isn't in the movie, they're going to say it's the shittiest movie. The room trap would be fun. I mean, I think they probably could have the crushy, like, ceiling trap. And again, if somebody kicks a door down and Jill has to dive through, that stunt is not going to fucking fly with a beret on. So another reason why they probably opted not to have her with shoulder pads and beret. Or maybe they use the line in the most awkward way. Here, it might be where Chris saves Jill and we get a Jill sandwich line anyway. It could happen. All right? It doesn't have to be Barry that says it. Watch, it's Wesker that says it. Anyway, moving on.